It's time for Supply Chain Now Radio, broadcasting live from the supply chain capital of the country, Atlanta, Georgia. Supply Chain Now Radio spotlights the best in all things supply chain. The people, the technologies, the best practices, and the critical issues of the day. And now, here are your hosts.
All right, good morning. Scott Luton here with you live on Supply Chain Now Radio. Welcome back to the show. We're coming to you today once again from Vector Global Logistics, a company that's providing world-class logistics services, all while deeply investing into the communities that they serve. Based right here in Atlanta, but with international reach, this company is on the move. You can learn more at vectorgl.com. Quick programming note, like all of our series on Supply Chain Now Radio, you can find our replays on a variety of channels: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever else you find your podcasts. As always, we'd love to have you subscribe so you don't miss anything. Supply Chain Now Radio is also brought to you by a variety of sponsors, including the Effective Syndicate, Talent Stream, Verison, and SupplyChainRealEstate.com. Several other leading organizations as well. Be sure to check out the show notes to learn more about our valuable sponsors. Okay, so let's welcome in our co-hosts here today. Once again, Greg White, co-host here at Supply Chain Now Radio, serial supply chain tech entrepreneur and trusted advisor. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Scott. How are you?
I didn't get up early enough to change out that adjective on the supply chain tech entrepreneur, so we'll do that on the next episode, but great to see you once again.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks.
You bet. Ben Harris, Director Supply Chain Ecosystem Expansion with the Metro Atlanta Chamber. How you doing?
That's a mouthful, isn't it, Scott? I'm doing great this morning. How about you, man?
We're doing fantastic. It's only a mouthful because we keep getting good news.
This is true.
For Metro Atlanta and what's going on here. So you and the whole team, the vast army of folks that make it great to do business here, especially in the supply chain space, certainly have had some full plates here lately, huh?
Indeed, we have.
Well, great to have you back here in the studio. And then next up, Jason Moss, CEO of the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance. Jason, how you doing?
Man, I am fantastic.
Your cape got stuck indoors. You were coming in.
Right.
Love. I mean, we've got folks that love the end-to-end supply chain here. You know, Jason and the GMA does an outstanding job advocating for the manufacturing industry right here in Georgia. And, you know, we're proud of our partnership we've got in place, both with the GMA and the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And great to have both y'all here for what's kind of a crossover episode. Mm-hmm. You know, we've had this Supply Chain City series. We're missing Preacher Will here today, but shout out here on the show.
Right.
We've had that series for a long time. It's one of our first series here on Supply Chain Now Radio. And of course, one of our newer series, our manufacturing series that we do in conjunction with the GMA, and now we're crossing over a bit. But there's lots of kindred spirits here around what goes on across the end-to-end supply chain right here in Georgia, right?
Yep, indeed.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's welcome in our featured guest here today. Really excited about this conversation. Guillermo Juvera, Vice President of Supply Chain Management at Mitsubishi Electric Trane HVAC US LLC. How you doing, Guillermo?
Very good, Scott. Thank you very much.
We are really pleased that you're here. You know, it's interesting timing and how small this vast Metro Atlanta community is, you know, we were talking to a few folks of who's going to be on the show this morning. They all were singing your praises and singing Mitsubishi Electric Trane's praises of what y'all have been doing there in Gwinnett County. So looking forward to not only learning your story here today, but also putting our finger on the pulse of what the organization is doing. Pretty neat collaboration here.
Great. Thank you very much.
You bet. And feel free. We're gonna tackle the news, starting off some of the top things known in supply chain now. But Guillermo, as you've already struck us, you're gonna feel free to dive right in and comment on anything you hear on the front end before we interview you and your story. All right, so with that being said, we like to start off our podcast with featuring some of the top things known in supply chain now. Obviously, we could be here for days and days reporting on all the breaking news. But Ben, for starters, what's been on your radar more than others right now?
Yeah, so no surprise, the trade war obviously we're right in the middle of it, basically right now. So the trade war between the U.S. and China is really reviving, apparel supply chains right now in a country that had lost business actually because of poor workplace standards originally. So some fashion brands are looking to move their production from China, are now turning to Bangladesh. So as you know, we've seen lots of things built in the past from Bangladesh. Some stuff still done, but we've seen right now a major shift in that production now going back to Bangladesh. And this happens even as there were safety issues that persisted for years after 2 workplace accidents actually killed more than 1,000 workers originally in Bangladesh. So that was the reason for a big shift, back to China originally. But companies have really been bulking up sourcing in this country amid efforts to improve safety conditions there. So, and the shift has really accelerated as the trade dispute, has heated up. So we'll probably continue to see this big shift in apparel exports from Bangladesh going to the U.S. And this will continue to rapidly rise.
Friction and challenge for some and opportunities for others. So we'll see how that tends to evolve in a variety of countries that's handling some of the outbound production. Greg, what about on your end?
Yeah, so
we'll go back and forth here.
A bit related, right? So saw an article about the discount stores, the Dollar General, Five Below, Dollar Tree, my wife's favorite store. And basically what it's saying is that so far they have been able to mitigate the impact of tariffs, but they're testing price hikes. Now, first of all, my first question is, how does a store that charges $1 for everything test a price hike? But the truth is, Dollar General is not only $1. Dollar Tree, I love to walk through the store and ask my wife, how much is this? Because I just love to hear her say, I love her too, but I love to hear her say, that's $1. So, but anyway, here's a quote from the CEO of Dollar Tree. He said, "We've negotiated price concessions, canceled orders, modified product specs, evolved product mix, and diversified vendors." So they are also going to other places to get product to maintain the prices. So they say a whole bunch more here, but actually both of those, both Dollar General and Five Below, are guiding, though they've widened their guidance, they're guiding about the same on their stocks. And Dollar General actually is predicting that their profit will go up.
Wow.
So they have been testing some price elasticity. But look, I think the good news here is that these companies are working around this condition like others are, right? And, hopefully to the service of consumers, because as we've said, every single time we talk about tariffs and taxes, corporations don't pay either, right? They pass that right on to the consumer.
Yeah, it's us. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting, as you were sharing that, it's been interesting to see the Dollar Trees of the world, the Freds, all the folks that compete in that space have really cultivated a very strong, loyal consumer base. And I can't when I was growing up, I can't say that was the same thing. And I think folks are valuing that convenience. They're valuing deals. Right. I mean, that has never changed.
Right.
But it seems like they've also gotten better at really understanding who their customer is. So it'd be interesting to see how these pricing tests, how it plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be Five Below, I think, is probably the one that's going to have the most capability to test elasticity, because they don't have a cap built into their name. Right.
Interesting. So in honor of the U.S. Open, kind of going back and forth like a tennis match here today. And
well said, Scott. I like that.
Hey, we all look for those strong segues, right? Or some segue. So Ben, what else is on your radar?
Still looking, huh?
Yeah.
So U.S. manufacturing activity shrank for the first time in 3 years, actually, according to ISM. We've quoted the ISM, the Institute for Supply Management's Purchasing Manager Index before, but it actually fell to 49.1, and any reading below 50 shows contraction in the market. So this is amid the worsening trade battle between, of course, Washington, D.C. and Beijing, which we were just mentioning. So factory employment U.S. also fell to the lowest in 3 years, possibly pointing to softer manufacturing payrolls in Friday's unemployment report. So definitely a couple of headwinds that we're starting to see in the market. We're not seeing, there's no major fallout, per se, but it's just definitely more of a contracting market, if you will. So just something to be on top of, as we have conversations around supply chain, around the market in general. So not a major cause for concern, but just something to keep your eye on really out there.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, if you want, that is a great report that we reference all the time. It's chock full. I like how you gave the executive summary of that report, because you dive in and you got pages and pages of really great details and data. Kelly Barner with Buyers Meeting Point does an outstanding job giving it like an extended executive overview. I think she does it for the New York City chapter of PMI. So if our listeners want to, she's a great fan of the show, great friend of the show. If the listeners want more information on what Ben just shared, which is not the brightest news, we'll have a lot more brighter nuggets as we go through the podcast here today. But check out Buyers Meeting Point and our friend Kelly Barner over there for more information. Great resource. Okay, Greg, before we bring our featured guests back in, any other?
Yeah, so interestingly, we've talked a lot in previous shows about what's going on with warehousing, right? So there are 14 industrial real estate markets in the U.S. That are being called strategic options for investors by CBRE. So the demand for warehouse space greatly exceeds the supply in several markets, one of which is right here in Georgia, Savannah, by a small margin. But the biggest places where the net absorption is so much greater than the completions are Phoenix, Detroit, the Central Valley, California. Go Chino. And Reno and Milwaukee, of all places. Milwaukee, 18.6 million square feet of absorption, 6.7 million square feet of completions. So that's a pretty big delta. So there's some opportunities, and I think that really goes to how people are shifting supply chains around, right, to get goods closer to the end consumer, right?
Always opportunity. Always opportunity.
One comment about price elasticity.
Yeah.
How to go back to price elasticity, just reduce the content.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to fit right in, Guillermo.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, so speaking right on time, let's bring in our featured guest, Guillermo Juvera, back in, Vice President of Supply Chain Management with Mitsubishi Electric Trane HVAC US LLC, which is really neat. We're going to learn more about this really neat collaboration between these two well-known brands in a second here. But before we do, Guillermo, tell us more about your professional journey kind of prior to your current role.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for the invitation to all the team. I'm industrial engineer by base and from Tec de Monterrey in Mexico. So I start my career in the maquiladora environment. I worked 7 years in North Mexico and in a very nice environment, very great opportunity to learn about manufacturing for best practices, including access to Apex. So right there, when I'm my first year of career, I had the opportunity to get the introduction to the Apex Cpi M, a program that I completed right in the first few years of my career. And that was basically, that set the tone for me in supply chain. The ability to get that body of knowledge right into my education, and being able to go to a meeting room and then have an opinion, and an opinion that you can back with data, and you can go ahead and implement things and change things and transform. So that put things in motion.
And real quick, for our listeners that may not be aware of the Apex Cpi M certification, Apex, of course, is now part of the ASCM family of organizations, but the Cpi M has been around for, it's been the most tenured Apex certification, certified in production and inventory management.
Correct.
Right? It is not something for the faint of heart.
No.
You've got to.
I don't have it.
I chose to go to CSCP route, not turn this into an Apex commercial, but CSCP is a one exam. And when you went through CPIM, I bet that was 5 exams?
That right now is 5. I was 6 at that time.
Wow. Man. Well, very rigorous, but to your point, going through and earning certification, especially from respected body of knowledges, bodies of knowledge, you do go into meetings with a whole different rooted and expert level point of view, right?
Confidence.
Yes, confidence.
You go with confidence, basically. And the biggest thing for me in education, supply chain core education, is that you understand that there are different manufacturing environments, and not all solutions apply to every manufacturing environment.
Yeah, that's critical.
So what happened there is that people have had success in the past in certain industry, and they add a new product line, or they move to a different company, and they try to put back the same solutions to different problems or different segments of the market, and that's when things start to go wrong. So you need to. It helps a lot to help the core knowledge on supply chain, on what type of tools to apply to different problems.
So obviously that certification and that learning, professional development opportunities were important for your early journey. What did you after you earned the CPIM? What type of roles did you move into?
Sure. Well, I start getting basically the supply chain, the planning. Start initially in the engineering department, then I moved to the planning department. I took production control, I took procurement, and then I went to management in supply chain. All that at the manufacturing level. And it was really interesting that I'm sitting in a factory trying to control a factory of 2,000 people at that moment, consumer electronics, and I'm going through all the difficulties of running a factory, the pressure, but always asking why the forecast is so bad. I mean, we were just there. I mean, come on, guys, don't change. You are changing this. So one day I go to my business meeting in the U.S., my monthly meeting with the sales office, the company at that moment, and I was sitting there, and then the business planning director was sitting there, but the manager was not there. The business planning manager, hey, where is this guy? And, oh, he left the company. And what about the next person? Well, I'm interviewing. Hey, do you want to interview me? Sure, sit down. So he called the sales VP, and in 5 minutes they interview me, and they say, come back Monday, show up Monday, and come to the US. That was in 2000.
Wow. They moved quick.
Of course, they knew me. 5 years, I've been working with them 5 years, they knew me. And I guess they had some concerns about getting to know control or getting to know better the manufacturing side. And I had that. So, but that gave me the opportunity to solve that question of why the forecast was so bad. Because now I was in charge of creating the forecast.
Yeah, they suckered you into that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Y'all know the bad dad joke that's been in the Apex circles for years about forecasting, right? What's the difference between a great forecast, an accurate forecast, and Bigfoot? Well, at least a couple people have claimed to see Bigfoot.
No kidding.
You know? Yeah, I promise you dad jokes today. That's all I got. Well, we didn't establish a connection for the Apex Body Knowledge prior to you coming on. So it's really neat to have you come on and kind of talk about how those rigorous certifications, and there's a wide variety of outstanding supply chain certifications out there, but the CPIM has been around the longest, has made an impact on a lot of careers. Especially, I think it's led folks, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but certain folks, especially in supply chain, really come to have a real appreciation around the planning and the forecasting. Some folks really, until maybe in recent years here, and everyone's really understood about the importance. But it seems like when you go through certifications like that, you really kind of are you're the earliest adopters. You drink from the Kool-Aid quickly as it relates to the value of these key functions within supply chain. I think
you go and challenge the status quo, and that's the key for transformation in a company. You go to a company, you go to an environment, and you see that people get into new companies and they have an opinion, and they have a very firm opinion about what needs to be done. And what happens is that you have a new set of eyes, and that's always valuable for a transformation. And if that set of eyes, it have a well-structured mind about what is there, what has been successful, what has been not, then you are into something.
Yep. Interesting.
That's the CPIM. Malcolm just let me know that's about 200 to 225 hours worth of study. So it's essentially a college.
I believe it.
Degree.
Unless your last name's Luton. 2,000 hours of study. Really rigorous. So let's talk about, and Malcolm, way to be looking out. Malcolm, outstanding. So let's talk about the current organization, kind of shifting from, because we're going to talk about your current role, and which I'm sure you don't get much sleep at night, or you got several full plates, but let's talk about the really unique organization that has now been made of Mitsubishi Electric and Trane HVAC US. Tell us more about what the organization does first.
Well, the joint venture, it's an opportunity for two big companies to basically expand on the use of ductless and VRF technology on the US. So in the one side, we have Mitsubishi Electric with great products, with great equipment, quality, and recognition. And then you have Trane with a great sales force, very recognized, very important brand that have relevant commercial channels. So it's the integration of those two, the product and the channels. And that's the big opportunity.
Huge opportunity. Now, for the facility in Gwinnett County, where I believe your office is, right?
Correct.
And kind of North Atlanta, right? North Metro Atlanta area, or Northwest Metro Atlanta area. What goes on in that facility?
Well, we have team members of around 500 people, and around half of that is on the sales and the technical field side of the equation, and the other half is in Suwannee. Same in Suwannee, we have our engineering center developing products for the US. That portion is not part of the JV. So that portion is a Mitsubishi Electric engineering center just with us developing products for the US and Latin American markets. So that's what we have there. The marketing, sales, marketing, operations, of course, all the supply chain department. And we have distribution centers in Suwannee, in Atlanta for the east side of the US, and in Los Angeles for the West Coast.
Gotcha.
Guillermo, how many SKUs roughly do you distribute from that facility there in Suwannee?
We have active equipment, large pieces of air conditioning equipment, like 2,000. And then we have the service parts organization with around 10,000 service parts.
It's a pretty complex supply chain, if you will, when it comes to that many parts and also that many SKUs just for the East Coast of the U.S., basically.
Right.
Yeah, correct. And I know you always have the new product introductions and all this time going on. So it's always fun.
Well, and ductless is gaining steam, has been gaining steam in the States. I mean, it's really prominent in non-U.S. markets, right? Because in aged buildings, it's a great way to create HVAC.
And about how many people do y'all have there in the Suwannee area again?
Around 400.
About 400?
300, 400.
Okay. Very cool.
So before, Greg, I know you had some questions around the collaboration, right, between Mitsubishi Electric and Ingersoll Rand, but it's important to note the company, the organization, which was established in 2018, is now the leading provider of ductless and VRF systems in the United States and Latin America. So y'all have not wasted any time, huh?
Well, we have been, our market share has been always in the high 30s, basically number one market share in the US. And with this joint venture, basically, we are very aggressive and we are very optimistic for the next few years. You mentioned about that this product is growing in the US, and the air conditioning may be a little bit flat, or especially this year, but our technology, ductless technology, is growing. We are, let's say, 20% per year. Right. And that's the type of activity we're seeing.
Well, I think that goes to, the same reason it's used in a lot of non-U.S. countries is because now people can get air conditioning throughout a building that's difficult or impossible to duct. Similar to the one that we're in
as we look
right now.
No, I think
is there anything you can do for us? Yeah, but I think that's an important. It's an important bridge. So I worked with Watsco, one of your customers, through Gemaire, I think you said, right?
Sure.
And this has become a big portion of their business, right? They're an HVAC distributor, and it's become a big and dramatically growing portion of their business for some years.
Yeah, our main selling point basically is the zone comfort solution, that now you are able to customize different rooms according to your needs. But very important, you provide the comfort and you only use the resources for that room.
Right.
It's a variable speed technology. That means variable consumption of energy. So it's the most efficient solution for in the industry.
And this, tell us a little bit about how the companies operate together. How do Mitsubishi and Trane, other than being on opposite sides of the letterhead,
actually,
how do you all work together?
That has been a very unique joint venture with everything is based on respect. So we have two very different companies. We have an American company very recognized, but at the same time very aggressive, very active, which is in the side of Trane, and then a very conservative, 100 years old organization in Japan, where this joint venture is based on respect, where the function is operated by the core group from Mitsubishi Electric, and we are receiving, basically, we have one main executive, our CFO, Mr. Andy Kelso, from Trane, and that's how the collaboration works. Basically, we do our business, and we receive support, and also we have our board of directors with members from both companies that guide us.
Yep. If I can piggyback on Greg's question there, where did the ball originally get rolling when it comes to this joint venture?
I think that the market, like many other markets in the U.S., are very dynamic, and you always management always looking to maintain their competitiveness, their edge for the next 5 years. In the U.S., part of the transformation is manufacturers trying to grab channels of distribution. So if you are a manufacturer where you don't have a partnership, you are at risk of running out of space. So that concern has always been in mind, or any leadership team. So I think that's at some point someone identified the opportunity.
Yeah, it's really neat to see that in the modern day global supply chain industry. You're seeing companies that are looking beyond the the proverbial four walls, to really figure out different ways they can increase their competitive advantage while partnering differently. And that's the breath of, I think, one of the big breaths of fresh air in the industry in recent years. We had Peter Gibbons. In the company, and Greg, you may remember as well, Peter Gibbons is CEO of Tire Hub. And Tire Hub is a really interesting, different industry, but similar joint venture between Goodyear and Bridgestone, two long respected leading brands in the tire industry, who also saw an opportunity to combine forces and serve the customer better, and protect their competitive advantage and increase market share.
Yes, and complement each other. How to complement with some strengths and weaknesses, and just find the right partner and make it work, which is very difficult.
Yes, while protecting each of the two respective organizations' culture and other business offerings, right? And by the way, Peter, it was a fantastic interview.
Phenomenal.
I mean, he is definitely someone that you'd want to work for. All right, so let's talk more before. I know Ben's got a couple questions, more industry questions for you, but tell us about your current role, Guillermo, as Vice President of Supply Chain Management at this joint venture.
Well, as part of supply chain management, it starts with the demand planning and sales and operation planning. So I'm in charge of that process, and generating the forecast now for a company, which we'll talk about it in a moment. But then implementing that, and the key is collaboration with customers to better understand what are their needs and what is moving in the market. We do that through two ways. One of them is analytics, which is data sharing. We partner with each of our distributors, and we understand what's going on, what's moving, what moved last week, how many they sold, how many they have. We aggregate the analytics, and we have a body of knowledge that by Monday morning, we can see what moved, how much last week for the whole country when we aggregate the data. Then you have, by our data analytics for several years, we know our product seasonality but for different line of products, so we can predict based on that body of knowledge how things move.
And in the HVAC industry, seasonality,
it's everything. Yeah, it's huge. Everything. We have heating and air conditioning, which may be opposite or very close to opposite. So every product is different, but that's the first portion. The other big portion is now is getting that knowledge and transmitting that to the factories and last suppliers to keep us healthy. So the challenge of the supply chain is pretty much how to keep that organization moving in the same direction and coordinated, which is a lot of sharing, grabbing the knowledge and transmitting the knowledge through the organization and keeping it healthy.
And that is that might sound easy and simple to some of our listeners, but that is extremely challenging, right? You touched on earlier demand planning, but also you touched on S&OP. it seems like to me that S&OP has gotten kind of almost, it's been important for a while, but there seems to be like a resurgence in the interest of S&OP. We've facilitated a couple of events. Apex Atlanta is one of our sponsors here. We've facilitated some events in recent years because of that resurgence in S&OP. What is there anything, if you think about, one or two best practices when it comes to effective S&OP, or maybe common mistakes companies make, what comes to mind when you've seen S&OP either gotten really right or left to rails?
Yeah, show us your magic crystal ball, because I sat through one of those courses that Scott was talking about on sales and operations planning, and I had no idea all of the behind the scenes and the knowledge that you have to be able to properly predict for a company. Like you said, how can those forecasts be so crazy? Well, I happen to know some salespeople, and I understand how some of those numbers can be kind of whacked. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how, what your magic, your crystal ball looks like, and how that works.
Here we go. So when I came, let me go back those 20 years ago, when I came back and tried to answer that question. So when I went to the process, I went and asked, okay, what is the current process? Oh, we asked the salesman. So, okay, let's go and see how they do it.
Problem one.
So here we go. Half of them don't like even computers.
Right.
So they don't like even Excel, and we are sending an Excel.
Or Salesforce.
They have not done analytics. And then the other half were just passing the document to the customer. They don't have time. They don't care, because they only care for the next 2 weeks replenishment. We were asking for a 5-month forecast. They don't have time. They don't know. Very few of them are experts. So that's the root cause of the.
One of the comments that I took away from one of the classes is a lot of people in business, especially in the executive tier, see salespeople as coin operated. You just stick a quarter in and pull a handle to get a result, and man, that's like, and they don't spend their time. They don't get paid, effectively to fill out forms and give you a forecast. They get commissioned to sell product.
However, there is something there.
Yeah.
They have knowledge.
Yes.
So but it's not, they have a unique knowledge of the market, of their customer. They know trends, they know products, they have sensitivities.
Right.
Now, there are other knowledge in other side of the organization, the product group, the marketing group. The challenge, crystal ball, grab the knowledge. If you have a 500 people organization, the challenge is you're going to do analytics. The analytics are great. Everything that you can do with analytics, don't even ask. If the data is there, if the product is stable, no variability, come on. You don't need to do anything. But that's not business. That's not reality. You create a base forecast, and then you create a process, SNOP and more detailed collaborative planning, where you grab intelligence from different departments in 5 minutes. So you can create a forecast and ask a salesman, give me your opinion, and that's
what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, let me sneak in one more question.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Scott.
So the communication between all the, you just talked about, getting the information out to the suppliers and the factories, but just how critical is that seamless and timely and accurate communication across the different functional aspects of the organization? How critical is that to S&OP?
I think the portion of the S&OP is to create one plan, because you may have connectivity, you may have ERPs developed, but there is 3 plans going on around the factory. There is the marketing plan, the sales plan. So the challenge on the S&OP is the alignment and having one plan. Now, you can have it on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. Every different industries, according to their lead time, set the timeline. But make sure that is the best intelligence available. And everything starts on the demand side, alignment, and putting, for instance, if you identify a challenge that is going to be different than your business plan, then you need to create a countermeasure. That's when you involve sales, create a plan, marketing, put the funds in place to change the demand to what you need. So that process takes a bunch of people.
Yeah,
well,
great point.
And speaking of people and analytics and communication, all those things, that's got to be synced up somehow. So Guillermo, what does your technology stack look like as we talk about digitalization also and those things? Is that, how do you guys kind of coordinate all those things? So is there a piece of technology or a group of technologies that you guys use to do that?
I think we had a basic, the SAP functionality going on very well for many years. So that always helps to have a place where you have that you can go back to your item master and is audited frequently and the data is good. That's the first thing. The next is identify your weaknesses. So in that analysis of what information do I need to run my business, it's not everything. You have 1,000 variables, and it's not the software who is going to solve the problem, because the software is going to have 1,000 inputs, 1,000 outputs. It's identifying what are the 3 inputs I need in order to process the data and have these 3 outputs. Then you develop the whatever you need on extra technology. In our case, we created a sales portal to connect with our customers, and we partner with them. We not only we partner, we add value to data sharing. So when they tell us how many they sold, that's good for us, but it's also good for them, because we come back and tell them, hey, why are you ordering these units if you already have 6 months of supply? Cancel the PO. However, give me an order for these 20 that you don't have. So we added value to the relationship. We improved their turns. We improved their cash flow.
That's great.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah, before, way back in my my metal stamping days, we did a little bit of business with the Vidalia factory in Vidalia, Georgia, the Trane factory. I don't know if you've been down there. Really impressive facility and great people to do business with. And to your point about communication and upstream and downstream models of communication, it really made, in metal stamping, which can be firefighting 101.
Yes.
It was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, one of the elements we are learning from Trane in this collaboration, and they are very deep into the lean methodologies, and we are learning from them. Even though we are a Japanese company and we do have continuous improvement and great quality over the years, the emphasis at the office level on lean technologies is helping us a lot.
And Guillermo, you guys are a very global company per se, especially with this joint venture with different parts of the world and so forth. As we kind of started the show, we talked about some unique trends and so forth in supply chain. What is kind of on your radar, right now? What are you kind of looking at when it comes to trends and things like that? So issues, trends, challenges, and so forth. What are some things out there that you are looking at closely, and how those things might affect you per se?
Well, we focus on basics, on data integrity. That's one of them. Data visibility. Make sure that we can work on silos through the extended organization. We find very frequently that a specific factory or something they have their own objectives, most likely cost reduction and things like that. And very frequently those objectives affect their behavior. So how to go back not only to those factories but to management to align to the overall supply chain performance, align objectives. So visibility and removing the silos is not a technology thing. So it's a more business and end-to-end management, the one that concerns me the most. That's where we make the big problems, the big mistakes that really affect our performance.
And that's where some of the biggest opportunities are in optimizing the end supply chain. Right?
It's optimizing because supply chain is about time management. How fast do you understand the next trend, and how fast you communicate that to your last supplier? But it's not only what you do at this level affects thousands and thousands of people. And so make sure that they are working on the right things, but they need to have the right information, the right plan.
Is there anything you're tracking now that you and your management team are looking at that you need to attack? Any of these trends or issues or anything like that, either globally or locally, that you're working towards right now?
Of course, the topic of the day,
tariffs. Sure. Trade war, tariffs.
The tariffs certainly affect us, and it's tough. It's tough to be in business just waiting for one tweet. I mean, it's tough.
What's been your strategy as far as how you guys, when you talk big strategy about the tariffs and so forth? Is it something you're just gonna kind of pass on to the consumer as far as a price hike or so forth, or you kind of look at some other things, whether it's shifting production, or how's that kind of working for you guys?
Yeah, it's a diverse manufacturing. We have a diverse manufacturing footprint. I mean, we have factories in Thailand, Japan, very small production in China. So we are actually very, very little affected right now. But and then we have, of course, our operation in North America, in Mexico, Mexicali, Mexico. It's a great operation that is supporting us, and they are very progressive on flexibility, which is a value added to the whole organization. The factories that we have in other countries, they are long lead time, and it is tough to manage long lead time. But when we have a company that is willing to test new waters on flexibility, it's always exciting.
So you're talking about Trends to Track. That's a great segue. But before we segue over into the Georgia Manufacturing Summit, Guillermo, can you tell us how can folks learn more about the organization? In case you've shared so much, I really wish we had about 4 or 5 hours, and maybe that was part one with Guillermo here, because there's a lot we could dive into deeper with what you've shared. But for starters, how can folks just learn more about Mitsubishi Electric, Trane, HVAC US?
Yeah, go to our website, and we have a different website for the commercial or for the residential base, where you can learn more about the technologies and our relationship with Trane.
And that website is metahvac.com, right?
Correct.
metahvac.com. Good stuff. So if you'll stick around for a second, we want to probably get you chiming on some other things we're about to talk about, because the Trends of Track and Supply Chain, we've got the honor of leading an esteemed panel of supply chain leaders once again for the third or fourth year in a row at the Georgia Manufacturing Summit, which is the premier, the place to be.
Yes.
If you're in manufacturing, whether you're in Georgia or regionally or U.S., it's a great place to be on October 9th. And Jason, thank you first off for giving us the opportunity to assemble a panel and just sit back and hear their best practices and insights, and been there, done that, just like Guillermo did in the last 30 minutes here. So before we get kind of the latest update on where the summit is, we definitely want to encourage our audience to come out and check out the Trends of Track and Supply Chain breakout panel session on October 9th, which is from 10:30 to 12 noon of a full day of goings on at the summit. And beyond Guillermo, we've got Tandria Bellamy, Vice President, Industrial Engineering with UPS. We have Aaron Meredith, Director of Innovation for the incredible Point A Center for Supply Chain Innovation, which of course is powered by the great folks over at Georgia Pacific, and Rochelle Routman, Chief Sustainability Officer for HMTX Industries, which they just rebranded and they got a bunch of companies now involved, bigger organization, but formerly they were Halstead International, which was named our Sustainability Company of the Year, or Sustainability Excellence Award for the first annual 2019 Atlanta Supply Chain Awards bin. We had Brian Green just here in the last week or so, their supply chain leader, and Powerhouse drummer. Yes. So as we form our supply chain now radio band,
rock chain,
but that panel, I am not taking anything away from the panels we've had over the years, but I am really excited about this panel with those four leaders, because I think you can hear a lot more of just what you've heard here. Been there and done that expertise, not theoretical stuff that works, and we know it works because we've done it and we've led it. So, but that's just tip of the iceberg. So Jason Moss, CEO of the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance, tell us more about what's going on with the summit this year.
Well, I tell you, this is going to be the biggest event we've ever had. The trends that we're tracking right now, and the summit are, we're finalizing all the rest of the educational sessions. In the past several years, we have noticed that this session tends to pack out first. As you're going down the hall, seeing what classes fill up, the Trends to Track, because of the Rockstar panels that are always on deck. People are interested. They want to know what's going on, and the reason that we host the Georgia Manufacturing Summit, this is our keystone event for the year. Our organization is designed to help support and grow manufacturing across the state of Georgia. For the past 12 months, we've had a little over 3,500 people attend events that we've hosted. And we do plant tours and networking events and educational sessions with the sole purpose to help connect industry professionals and give them the opportunity to see world-class manufacturing in action. And we get to see some pretty amazing facilities. We've toured everything from Gulfstream to Bluebird Bus to Coca-Cola to Daniel Defense to Kia, and we love going out and seeing these facilities. We've gone to Southwire a couple times. I mean, there's some great facilities around the state, and again, we don't do events just to put numbers on the board that we've done events. Our goal is to help industry professionals have the opportunity to build strategic alliances and learn from other industry professionals, learn those best practices, be able to walk through that conversation and build, be able to ask questions about how people have had success on their operational excellence journeys, their and what they're doing in safety, or maybe what's going on in even workforce development. So this is a culmination of the things that we've done throughout the past year. So we'll have a little over 30 educational speakers on different panels throughout the day. We've got 3 sessions in the morning. We've got 4 sessions in the afternoon. Instead of going through all of those, you can just go to GeorgiaManufacturingSummit.com and see the list of educational sessions that we've got. But we're going to be touching on every department in manufacturing. We're going to be talking about operational excellence. We got a lean session that's going to be going on. Of
course, our friend Bo Groover.
Bo Groover's going to be knocking it out of the park. He just gave me the final layout of his panel. He slipped one more in, so everybody's going to have to talk a little faster. But that's fine. But we got Bo will be covering that. Jamie Jackson's going to be covering our workforce development. He's our chapter director out in LaGrange, and we've got. Again, too many to speak of. The way the day will lay out. First thing in the morning, we'll have an awards program. The Georgia Manufacturing Awards will be hosted at the summit, and we've got 4 awards categories that we'll be showcasing, and then our keynote speaker for the awards program is a guy by the name of Warner Washington. Now he's a 35-year veteran from P&G, and we just toured his facility down in Albany.
Albany.
Albany, depending on where you're at state. But he's got over 70 acres under roof, one of the second largest manufacturing facilities in the U.S., and it was just fascinating. I've toured a bunch of places, but man, it's a pretty amazing facility. But he'll be one of our keynotes to talk about his experience in the past 35 years in manufacturing, and dynamic speaker, really fun guy. I mean, he is a great guy I'm really excited about having him share that. Then we have 3 educational sessions again in the morning. We'll have a break, and then we've got exhibitors that will be showcasing some of their products and services that support manufacturing across the state. So people will be able to kind of learn a little bit about some of the resources that are available here in Georgia. And then our lunch session we'll be doing, we've got Stuart Countess, and he is the chief operations officer at Kia. Stuart's a great guy, and he's going to be talking.
Just got promoted recently.
He did, man. I'm stoked about that. So I've known Stuart for quite some time, and as a matter of fact, he is on the cover of the latest Georgia Manufacturing Directory.
He's getting bigger every year.
That thing is getting bigger every year. Yeah, no doubt. We're really proud of that. We publish that twice a year to showcase all of our members, and but Stuart is going to be sharing some of the challenges and some of the things that they're running into with the Telluride. That Telluride is if you're not familiar, that's a new product,
that thing is hot
SUV that they've developed here in Georgia, and it is a rock star.
And everyone that's rolling off is already spoken for.
Right? Yeah, they've got a backlog, and so they're having, of course he's going
good problem to have. I guess.
And some of the challenges that they're having is this is the only place that vehicle is manufactured. So exporting this thing, it's a whole new piece that they're getting to go through, and so they're going to talk about some of the things that have worked and share some of the insights of what's working, and some of the things that they've done that maybe didn't work so well. And so Stuart is, again, he'll be doing that. And we hopefully the game plan is, if you have not seen one of the new Tellurides, there'll be a brand new one parked right up front by the stage. I've been trying to talk Stuart into giving me that one, but I don't know that I've been able to pull that off just yet. But one of the GMA benefits as a member of our organization, you get a huge discount for Kia products. Just which is a pretty neat deal. A lot of folks don't know about that. I'll make sure that Stuart reminds everybody to pick one up on the way home, right? But we're, again, really stoked about the lineup of speakers that we've got, the content that'll be covered. I promise you, the value will be there. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to hear from world-class manufacturing. How the leaders, the theme this year of the summit is manufacturing success in Georgia. And so, we all know that there's issues with workforce. We all know that there's issues with technology and the tariffs and all that stuff. We're not going to sit around and bellyache and whine about all the bad stuff going on. What we're going to do is we're going to celebrate the successes that our manufacturers have had and be able to share those, again, best practices and what's winning in workforce and what's winning in manufacturing a better bottom line and what's winning for the trends to track, right? And so
the last couple of years, you've made it a competition between the different breakout sessions to pull people in.
Right,
and I got to tell you, I'm proud of this panel we've got, and we are going to have the number one attendance class
You'll
trophy.
pack it out?
We're going to keep it because, to your point, it is about it's not fluff. I mean, just like we've learned here today, there are some nuggets you can take away and will be applicable to your business. Of course, most of the 1,000+ folks are going to be manufacturers, and across the wide, manufacturing scene, different sectors will be involved, but real practical takeaways is what you're going to have. And Trends of Track and Supply Chain, once again, we're proud to deliver with folks like Guillermo here.
Well, one of the biggest challenges, I mean, if there is a problem with the Georgia Manufacturing Summit, and we do have a problem with the Georgia Manufacturing Summit, I'll go ahead and just let you know that now. The feedback that I always get from these events is at the end of the event, people say, every time without fail, I wish I would have had my entire team here because I could only sit in on one of the educational sessions. But if you bring your team, we do sell tickets individually, not very often, but we do sell them by half tables and full tables. But our goal is to make sure that every department in a manufacturing facility is served, and I promise you the educational pieces are going to be there. And again, you can only sit in one session at a time. So if you bring your finance folks, you bring your salespeople, because we got sales and marketing training that we'll be doing. Operations,
important to drive top line revenue, of course.
Right.
And Ben and Greg and I will all be there, along with our 997 of our plus of our best friends. How can folks plug in, register?
Right.
And
it's real easy to plug in. You can purchase an individual ticket, half table or full table at GeorgiaManufacturingSummit.com. Again, GeorgiaManufacturingSummit.com. It's real easy to do that. You want to make sure that you're there and don't come alone. We do expect this event to sell out. So if you have not got your ticket, I mean, we're kind of constrained by the space that we've got leased. So if you hadn't got your ticket, I'd encourage you to get that quick and be ready to learn some stuff and meet some great people.
I know I've got my calendar blocked already, but Jason, remind our listeners, when is it exactly? What's the date one more time?
It's October the 9th at the Cobb Galleria. And it will be a full day from 8:30. The doors will open at 7:30. The kickoff event. First speaker starts talking at 8:30. Actually, Scott will be one of the very first speakers. We always have him do a very special part of that launch in the morning, and then we'll wrap it at 4:30. Now, there has been some talk that we might put together a GMA band. Anybody that can play anything. I'm a great listener. I don't know. I have zero musical talent.
You're not going to be singing solo.
No. Solo.
That's why I signed up.
Right.
GeorgiaManufacturingSummit.com. October 9th is a place to be if you love the manufacturing world. Be here, Cobb Galleria in Atlanta. We're proud to be broadcasting live. We're proud sponsors of the GMA. The manufacturing industry does need advocates like the GMA and Jason Moss and his team. So we're really excited about that. And Greg, while I'll be on the breakout panel, you're going to be rocking and rolling with some great guests as we broadcast live from the summit.
I'm going to have to go solo, man. Taken away by Whoopi. So, yeah.
But we've been teasing this quite some time. We've got some VIP guests.
Very VIP, yes. We've got some, I'm not sure exactly how far to tease it, but we've got some government officials, suffice it to say, from some other countries that are doing business with manufacturers here in the U.S.
Big thanks to Albert Sorto for arranging a couple of those interviews, probably. But going international and across barriers, across borders, and really getting perspective global perspective, that's what it's about.
Well, now that you mentioned that, getting kind of outside of our borders, I am focused on anything that is beneficial to manufacturers in the state of Georgia. Now, so two things. We want to make sure that this is open to anybody in the country, actually anybody on the globe. If you want to come check out and see what the cool stuff is going on in Georgia, come down and hang out with us. I promise you it'll be a great event. The things that you'll learn will apply everywhere, but also you do not have to be a member of GMA to participate. A lot of times people think that this is our association event only, but no, this is open to anybody in the manufacturing space. So
open arms.
Yes.
Free hugs.
Come on and hang out. Yeah. And coffee. Well, coffee, for a while.
Looking forward to that. October 9th. Circle your calendar. Be a great event once again. But as we wrap up, we want to touch on a couple of events we're going to be at. And of course, we encourage our audience to come check us out in person, Supply Chain Now Radio, as we broadcast live. Almost across the country for now, or at least we got half the country, right? But we are a proud media partner of the 2019 AIAG SCAC Supply Chain and Quality Conference, which is just next week. And of course, praying for everyone in the Bahamas, all up and down the southeast coast as the Hurricane Dorian plays itself out here. There's been a lot of devastation, and so the folks in Charleston, this event is probably not at the top of their list right now, but nevertheless, come out and check us September 12th, 13th in Charleston, as we're there at the Automotive Industry Action Group and the South Carolina Automotive Council Supply Chain and Quality Conference, sponsored by our friends over at the Effective Syndicate.
Right. Yeah, and we're going to interview some folks from Bosch and Volvo and all of the manufacturers, auto manufacturers that are there, BMW, Mercedes. It's going to be interesting talking to them.
Big Blue, IBM will be there talking
that's right.
technology within the automotive space. We look forward to sitting down with them as well. And then we've tackled the October 9th, the Georgia Manufacturing Summit, the place to be. And then kind of moving into November, while we're working on a couple other events, especially as we move into the fall season here. But we're going to be in Austin, Texas at what event's coming up there, Greg?
November 7th and 8th at the EFT Logistics CIO Forum. We're going to help Austin keep it weird.
That's right. Austin, Texas, and get some great barbecue and talk to a bunch of great people. And
they're having like 300 decision makers at this, and I saw the other day they've been really good about keeping us up to date on what's going on. They've added some additional speakers and a couple of new participants in terms of companies that are displaying or showcasing there as well.
Yeah, love our partnership we have with EFT based in London. In fact, we've got them coming up on a podcast next week. So this November 7th, 8th in Austin, the 2019 Logistics CIO Forum, Freight Tech, Logistics Tech, Supply Chain Techs. It's going to be an outstanding conference. Then flip the calendar real quick. Reverse Logistics Association Conference Expo out in Vegas in February 2020. We love that new partnership with them.
Yep.
We have a monthly series that focuses on the ever-growing and ever more important world of reverse logistics and supply chain and returns processing and handling. And then MODEX 2020, which we've touched on about a lot. One of the largest supply chain trade shows in North America, coming right here to Atlanta. Ben's excited about his 35,000 best friends that'll be here for MODEX 2020. And we're going to be broadcasting live for all 4 days. But also, Ben, that will be the Atlanta Supply Chain Awards.
It will indeed. Which we had some fun news recently. We can't really talk too much about it, but we think we've secured a exciting keynote speaker for that event. So there will be more information coming out about that very soon.
Yes, and we hope to secure that net. We trapped them, and we hope to get it locked in. But it's organizations that really folks are dying to hear from, and we hope to lock that down for March 10th, 2020 at the 2020 Atlanta Supply Chain Awards, hosted by our friends at MODEX. And by the way, MODEX is free to go to, modexshow.com. GMA is going to be there.
Yes.
MODEX show.com. All right, so what a show today. Really appreciate all the kindred spirits around the table here. Greg White, co-host Supply Chain Now Radio. What a chock full show. You want to go hour two?
I was about to say I got a bunch of stuff I'd love to talk about, but you know what? Let's table it till the next time, because we are not starving for content. That's for sure.
Let's consolidate it down to this singular point that Guillermo made, and that is consolidate those three plans, right? Your sales, financial, and operations plan into one, right? That is a great lesson for S&OP. If you take nothing else away, that is a really critical lesson. Thank you for that.
Loved it. So, Greg, big thanks to Guillermo Juvera, Vice President, Supply Chain Management at Mitsubishi Electric Trane HVAC US LLC. Wow.
Yeah.
Took my Wheaties this morning.
Way to go.
And you can learn more about that organization, as we mentioned, at HVAC.com. Really neat organization that's doing great things in industry. Big thanks to Ben Harris and Jason Moss. Ben Harris, of course, with the Metro Atlanta Chamber. Jason Moss with the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance. Lots of big events, which will include as many on the show notes. So any things y'all alluded to, you can shoot us some links there. We'll include it in the show notes. And Greg, be sure to check out other upcoming events, replays of our interviews, other resources. Where at?
SupplyChainNowRadio.com.
To our audience, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, all the leading sites where podcasts can be found. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. On behalf of the entire Supply Chain Now Radio team, this is Scott Luton wishing you a wonderful week ahead, and we will see you next time on Supply Chain Now Radio.